Hey, great question around the difference between traditional therapy, clinical life coaches, and so forth. And I think the way to best answer this question to start off with is with a disclaimer. The disclaimer is there's not a right or wrong between one modality or the combination of modalities or the other. And I would share that probably historically speaking, that probably 1 out of every 10 young adults inside of Pacia Life actually are seeing traditional therapists in a traditional office setting. And some of the examples around that would probably definitely include some of the young adults that are struggling or have a challenge around an eating disorder, certainly some PTSD or trauma based therapy models. The young adults that are in the early stages of addiction recovery, so forth. Those are great examples, I believe. For example, some of our young adults might still see a traditional therapist 1 time a week, with a pre-scheduled appointment every Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. Some of our other young adults, especially those more in the addiction models, that they might see a therapist and or do group therapy and those sort of things might be 4 to 7 times a week, to be honest. So it really is individualistic. It's around what's going to really help build that foundation so that each of our young adults can actually move forward in their life. I would also say that as a side note, oftentimes family members will, and rightfully so, ask this question: well, how many therapy sessions per week is my son or daughter going to get? And the answer should actually not be driven by the parents. That's actually the wrong answer. It needs to be driven by the young adult. Of course, that's assuming that they are in a position of responsibility in their own life, that they're capable of being a partner and making those decisions and seeing where that decision process goes. Now, with that said, thankfully, almost most of our young adults are, in that place of responsibility where they are driven through making those decisions through a partnership and not having to have decisions made for them. Now, with all that said, I think one of the things that's a misnomer about life coaches or clinical life coaches inside of Pacia Life is oftentimes many of our life coaches are actually our trained therapists and or counselors, or they've worked for years inside of other therapeutic modalities, such as wilderness therapy or things like that, where they have a vast experience and or education combined that allows them to not only operate in a clinical setting but also in a life coaching setting combined. So for starters, I think that that's an important piece to get to understand. Also, inside of Pacia Life, I think our clinical coaches actually understand the power of habit, and the power of habit actually comes from the power of thoughts. Our thoughts, both our conscious thoughts and our subconscious thoughts, actually create the belief systems that we were driven by. And because of those belief systems, that actually creates our reality. And what our reality and our belief systems are, it actually creates what we actually do on a daily basis. That becomes an important piece to the life coaching model and therapy models, because it's kind of like, for starters, if I go to the doctor because I have a scratchy throat or I feel sick or something, I know I'm going to that doctor to receive help to help me, to fix me, basically. The moment I actually walk into a therapist office and I might see LCSW or Dr. So and so on that door, it also kind of programs the subconscious mind and the conscious mind that says, hey, I'm going to get fixed. I need help. The difference between, I think, therapy, one of the differences between therapy and a life coach is coaches by nature. We started off at very young ages hiring coaches. We went to little leagues, whether it was baseball or basketball or gymnastics or whatever it was. We had coaches that helped coaches to become better. Certainly, of course, Olympians and professional athletes, they all have teams of coaches. Fortune 500 executives hire business coaches and life coaches all the time. Sometimes we have academic coaches. Some people call them tutors or academic coaches. We certainly hire financial advisors and financial coaches. We hire fitness coaches. When we hire a coach, we think in our mind about that this person's going to help coach me to be the very best I can be. Versus when I go into a traditional office-based therapy session, I go in and my mind's already going, okay, here we go again. I need to be fixed. I need to be, because I'm broken somehow. Well, again, there's not really a right or wrong in that, but there's an important piece to that whole process that we believe is important because that subconscious programming drives our beliefs, and our beliefs drive our actions. And so if we believe that we're broken all the time, then that becomes a pretty important situation where we're acting out of a belief system that we're broken versus acting out of a belief system that we're empowered and we're only going to get better. I'll give you a couple quick examples. Let's assume that I have a challenge with maybe social anxiety, and I also want to get a job. When I go to my job interviews, my anxiety is high. And so I start to feel like, maybe I'm avoiding the job interview altogether, which we see from time to get time. Maybe I just go into the job interview and I freeze up and I don't know what to do, or I just don't present very well due to that anxiety. Well, with my traditional therapist, I'm certainly going to work on that anxiety. We might even talk about job interviews and how I can't get through this challenge that I have in my life with these job interviews and all that kind of stuff. And at the same time, with that, is I'm going to do that like every Wednesday morning at 10 a.m., right? We're going to rehash what happened last week during the job interview and how my anxiety and how I worked through it. We still might actually, in my therapy session, might do some mindfulness and some breathing exercises. We might work on the triggers and all that kind of stuff, but it's always in the past. It's something that happened, a few days ago or last week, or even in some cases in therapy, years ago. The difference with a clinical life coach or a life coach is maybe my life coach is actually coming to me and they're actually working with me for days in advance. We're helping do resumes. We're doing job interviewing, role plays. We're certainly, maybe we might even go rock climbing. And during the rock climbing event, we're actually working on my self-efficacy, on my ability to overcome challenges. And we're trying to transfer that piece back into my anxiety. We might work on mindfulness and breathing techniques and other things that might be helping me move through the anxiety in real time and so forth and so on. But now my life coach, when it comes to the job interview, is my life coach actually may come pick me up, like let's say 8 a.m. on a Monday morning. And for a couple hours before the interview, we might actually go work on just laughing. We might work on reaching out and practicing my handshake, working on looking people in the eye, role playing. We might actually do some mindfulness, some breathing, some meditation, some different things like that actually are helping me calm down and getting myself prepared for that job interview. While my life coach cannot go into the job interview itself, but my life coach can certainly be waiting outside and waiting for me to come out and go, okay, how did it go? What happened here? Did it work? What happened? Did you, how do you think you did? And this, that, and the other. And we're able to process that in that real life moment. We're not waiting till next week during a therapy office session to go through and talk about it then. We're actually doing it in real time with real emotion. Sometimes that post-job interview thing is full of high fives. It's like, I think I rocked it. I think I did better. Or maybe it's actually full of tears and going, I actually really think I screwed it up again and I couldn't overcome it. But whatever it is, it was in that moment in time. It was embracing the messy, the good, the bad, the challenge, the high five, or the ugly in real time and through real experiences. A big difference between traditional therapy, going to an office, versus actually working on it in real time. Another example, oftentimes I hear a parent go, I called my son today and said, well, what'd you do today? And they said, well, I went rock climbing. Click. And the parents are going like, what in the world did I pay all this money for and everything else? And if you actually put the life coach on the phone, the life coach would maybe reference the rock climbing, but the reality is the life coach would be sitting there talking about how we use the rock climbing today to build self-efficacy, how we did a grit scale test pre and post to build grit, how we examined motivators from within during the rock climbing experience to overcome challenges, and then how we use transference from the rock climbing experience into how to transfer it back to the job interview, or into dating, or into college exams, or whatever it may be. So oftentimes parents go, well, again, Hey, what'd you do today? Well, I just went on a hike. And the parents are going, well, I'm paying a lot of money to go on a hike, or I'm paying a lot of money for you to go golfing, or a lot of money for you to go surfing, or whatever. And to the untrained eye, honestly, that's understandable, because what you're not understanding is what was really taking place by that life coach and the goals and objectives that were trying to be met through that experience. So, anyway, I hope that gives a quick overview about some of the differences between a traditional therapy, a life coach, and so forth. Again, I don't know that there's a right or wrong between them. It depends on the individual student. So, anyway, hopefully that's helpful. Thank you.